Thank you for joining us today to learn about Salt Lake City's Frequent Transit Network. I am Lara, Handwerker, and I'm a transportation planner for Salt Lake City's Transportation Division.
And I'm Julianne Sabula, and I'm the Manager of Strategic Planning and Programming for Salt Lake City Transportation.
Today we'll talk about what the Frequent Transit Network is, how to use it, why the city thinks it's an important investment, and how you can get involved in improving the network into the future.
So what is Salt Lake City's Frequent Transit Network, and what does it mean for you? In August of this year, Salt Lake City and UTA launched the city's first phase of the Frequent Transit Network. This new high-frequency bus service will get you to work, school, the university, medical appointments, social events, and recreation with more ease and convenience. Funding is provided by Funding Our Future and a partnership between Salt Lake City and UTA. The goal of this new frequent transit network is to provide you with more transit to more places with more convenience and reliability. This network provides enhanced bus service on 3 east-west routes, the Route 2 on 200 South, Route 9 on 900 South, Route 21 on 2100 South. You can find the specific routes on the maps, on maps that are distributed throughout the city. The high-frequency service is designed for a busy lifestyle. It's 15-minute service Monday through Saturday, late-night service every 30 minutes, and Sunday service every 30 minutes. These 3 routes are the first phase of a much larger frequency network planned for the future. The frequent transit network will be implemented as funding becomes available, and its build-out will include a combination of routes that have high ridership potential and that improve equity of the transportation system. So why does the city believe this investment is important? High-frequency bus service means more convenience, making transit a better option for more people. It's less expensive than owning and operating a vehicle, and it improves air quality by getting more cars off the road and reducing emissions. Every trip counts. Routes 2, 9, and 21 make east-west travel efficient and more direct. Route 9 was expanded for more accessibility for West Side neighborhoods and extends as far as Redwood Road. Go to East High School on the Route 9 or Highland High School on the 21, now faster than ever before. Your kids or grandkids can also stay at school later for after-school activities and sporting events because the routes offer reliable evening service. And each route goes directly to the University of Utah.
All right, so if you've never used the system before, you may be wondering, how do you ride? How much does it cost? So let's go over that a little bit. If you're new to UTA and you would like to learn how to ride the system, the best way to figure out how to do so is to go to rideuta.com for travel resources. There are maps and schedules available on their website, and you can learn how to get from your point A to point B. There are 3 easy ways to pay to use the system. 1, cash, exact change. 2, there's a variety of transit pass programs through UTA. Or 3, if you prefer to go mobile, you can download UTA's Go Ride mobile ticketing app. So if you're using cash, one-way passes are $250. If you're a senior or you qualify for reduced pricing, a one-way ticket is $125. And you will need to have exact change because bus operators don't carry change. You can also check out a variety of pass programs to save money if you're a regular transit rider. The Hive Pass is a program provided by Salt Lake City and UTA. For only $42 a month, Salt Lake City residents are provided unlimited trips on UTA buses, tracks, and the S-Line streetcar. So that's a savings of 50% from the monthly UTA pass. And UTA pass programs also provide an affordable option for riding the system. And again, you can go to rideuta.com to figure out which pass program is best for you. And of course, there's an app for that. The UTA Go Ride app makes it easy for you to plan your trip and purchase tickets. So simply download the app, purchase your ticket, and then you can simply show the bus operator your ticket on your screen.
As we begin to brand the new frequent transit network, we are also seeking community input. Frequent transit network is a term used by transit organizations, but we'd like to replace this with terminology that is a little more exciting and unique to Salt Lake City, short and memorable. We're looking for a name that communicates the ideas of frequent or fast and a connected network of frequent transit service, enhanced transit within the UTA system, so they already have at UTA a lot of branded services, and the directness of the service. final name should also integrate with the UTA naming structure of transit services. Any names generated will be submitted to Salt Lake City and UTA for consideration. So if you have names or ideas that you'd like to submit, please leave them in the comments. The final name selected will depend on copyright laws and availability, but we'll review all the names that get submitted. Some ideas that have been generated so far include the Beeline, UTA Next, and UTA Peak. Let us know what ideas you have. We'd also like your feedback on how to improve transit in your community. Please visit slcgov.com/transit to take the Frequent Transit Network survey, whether you're a current user of the system or not. All of that information helps us do better planning of the system.
All right, so thank you for your time. Your input is really appreciated. As we work to improve transit in our community, we couldn't do it without the strong support and collaboration of our residents. So get out there and try routes 2, 9, and 21 and enjoy a faster ride. And I think we're gonna take some questions now if there are any that you may have. Okay, so some people are wondering if ridership has increased on the 3 lines since we implemented the new service. Julianne, do you want to talk to that a little bit?
Sure, yeah, we've seen actually much faster increases in ridership than we expected. So the Route 9 in particular has had so much improvement that we've seen ridership approximately double compared to this time last year, which is great. That's exactly what we had hoped for. On the 2 and the 21, there was already some frequent service. The improvements that we've seen and the increases in ridership have largely been on the weekends, as well as in the evenings.
Okay, so the next question is, when will you have schedules, routes, and pricing that fits the needs of most Utahns? So I think that, we're working on building out this network. So as far as the routes go and the scheduling goes, these 3 routes are the beginning of what we're building into a citywide frequent transit network. So there will be a lot more. There will be more east-west connections, more north-south connections, and there are already other UTA routes in the city and in the region that run on this 15-minute service. So along State Street, along 500 East in Salt Lake City, the 200 and the 205. There are other routes in the city that already run on 15-minute service. And so over the coming years, we're just going to be working on adding more routes throughout the city, or increasing the service and increasing the frequency on routes throughout the city, to build out that complete grid frequent transit network. And so hopefully in the future, there'll just be more and more frequency on more and more lines.
And I'll just add, some of those routes are regional in nature, especially the north-south routes, and so UTA is also increasing service that happens to correspond with the city's transit master plan. We're expecting fairly substantial increases in the next 3 to 5 years. And so especially on the routes that Lara mentioned, I think those are good candidates. Also, the Salt Lake City Council indicated a desire for increased service on 10th North, on 6th North, and on 400 South, and so we'll see those coming in the next couple of years as well. Pricing was also a piece of that question, and we've been working on an analysis of our Hive Pass program. It's been going on for a few years now, and we're looking to take it to the next level. So we'll be coming in the next few months. We'll have information about the results of that analysis.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. So currently, transit costs are more than driving, so walk us through the cost and benefits of the program. So if someone is actually able to go car-free, or reduce from a multi-car household down to a 1-car, using transit exclusively is cheaper over the long run than owning and operating and maintaining a personal vehicle. When you think about gas cost and depreciation and car insurance, all of that adds up monthly to a higher cost than a transit pass monthly would be. And so that's one way to think about reducing those costs. What was the second half of that? Other benefits of the program. Once we have a more complete network, and then transit should be something that you can rely upon, that your next bus is going to be there quickly. Because I think that the biggest thing that makes people want to use their cars is the convenience. And so our goal is to make the transit network as convenient as possible, so you don't feel like you're waiting 30 minutes or an hour for your next bus, and so that it's truly a competitive method of transportation to get around.
Yeah, the other thing we heard in the transit master planning process from people is that they get stranded. So if bus service stopped, sometimes as early as 4 or 5 o'clock, then they could get to where they were going. But if they work in a restaurant or a bar, for example, they couldn't get home at the end of the day. And so I think that that is really important for people that don't work a standard, 8 or 9 until 5 schedule.
Yeah. Okay. All right, how much do cars contribute to Salt Lake's air pollution problem, and how does the FTN, the Frequent Transit Network, help? So transportation in overall accounts for about 50% of the harmful particulate matter that we know is contributing to our inversions here in the valley. And so they're a really big part of that air pollution, air quality puzzle. And using transit in general, and then hopefully what the FTN will be built into, will encourage people to get out of their cars. Any chance we have to reduce personal vehicle travel is that much less carbon emissions that are going into the air and contributing to our inversions. And so that's how using transit in general, and then the Frequent Transit Network will help with that.
We've also been working closely with UTA to increase electric bus service. And so, for example, on the Route 2, the service on that route is actually, with a combination of routes along 200 South, is running about every 7 minutes. And one of the buses that runs along that route is an electric vehicle. It's a pilot that UTA is running, and as we increase the electric infrastructure, we'll be able to convert more buses.
All right, let's see. Okay, are there any plans for bus rapid transit plans in Salt Lake City, like the UVX? Is the Davis?
Yeah. There are a couple. One is a regional project, and so that South Davis BRT project, it's the South Davis Salt Lake City Community Connector. Kind of a mouthful of a name, but that is a BRT project that now is in the environmental analysis stages, and so UTA will be seeking funding for that project over the next couple of years. The other thing we're looking at is on 200 South, we have a need to reconstruct that street. We're planning to do that starting in 2022, I believe, 2021 and 22. And when we do that, we have the opportunity to make that corridor better for transit. And so we'll be looking through a study at exclusive lanes, potentially, signal priority, and that kind of thing. Better stations, all of the components of BRT.
See if we have anything else. Okay, what are the city's plans to grow this network? Well, as I think Julianne mentioned earlier, the next streets that we're planning on rolling out in this phase of the Frequent Transit Network are 600 North and 1000 North. And so those will kind of run through the Rose Park area, because over there the existing bus service, it's a little circuitous and it doesn't really get people directly to their destination. So those are the next highest priority. After that,
400 South.
400 South.
And then there are also, we've been working closely with UTA, so you may have heard about their service choices. A lot of people participated in surveys for that, and that will lead into their 5-year service plan. And so there's been some increases in funding at the regional scale as well, and we should see service on places like Redwood Road, State Street, 500 East, 900 East. These are my best guesses, and the details are still being worked out. But I think we'll see those corridors come online in the next couple of years.
Okay. Next question is, who is currently using the system, and are you seeing more students? I think that especially University of Utah students, or I don't know the exact percentage, maybe you can speak to that, but a really large group of UTA riders.
They are, and we did an analysis of the boardings along the routes, and we're actually seeing some interesting things. We are seeing a lot of new boardings and the lightings. This is just the activity of a bus stop. Along the Route 9 in particular, that goes to East High School. But we're also seeing just an increase in ridership at all of the stops. And this tells us that the system is probably helping students, but also helping people for all different types of trips all over the city. That's really good. Transit works best when it's serving the greatest number and variety of trips.
Yeah, and I'll note that for high school students, I think we heard a lot that they weren't able, students who relied on using the bus weren't able to stay after school for extracurricular activities because the bus stopped running before the end of those activities. And so now that we have the later bus service running until midnight, Monday through Saturday, a lot of students are able to actually stay after school and participate in those activities where they weren't able to before. So that has been another increase. All right, next question. All right, walk us through the type of feedback you're looking for in the survey. So the survey, which again can be accessed at slcgov.com/transit. It's a pretty short survey. It's only 5 questions, so it won't take too much of your time. But what we're looking for is really specific information from residents who either use the system, and we want to know how you think the system can be improved, how your access to the system, your connections from, say, your home to your local bus stop or the bus stop that you use, how those can be improved, if there are pedestrian or bicycle connections that are lacking or that make it feel dangerous or unsafe to get from one place to another. Those are the kind of things we really want to know about because you as residents are interacting with your street in your neighborhood more than we are as staff. So we really want to hear specific information. And then also if you're not a user of the system, we're looking to hear about some of the barriers that maybe you experience. If it's difficulty in understanding UTA's scheduling, you know, how do I figure out where to go to get on the bus, where the bus is going to take me. The questions are really geared towards getting that sort of information so that we know how we can make the system as a whole more accessible to everyone. Does that sound all right? Great. Okay, got another. Okay, what are the major destinations along the 2, 9, and 21 routes? For first-time riders, what are some major places that they can visit along the ride? I mean, especially I would think along these 3 in particular, they're really great corridors for kind of recreational, you know, you have all of your restaurants and shops that you can visit if you're just looking for kind of fun things to look for along the routes. They all connect to the university or to the University of Utah if you need to get up there from various locations within the city. The 2 takes you right downtown if you're trying to get there. Again, the high schools are along the routes. Some, or I don't know, recreation centers like the
9 hits
Sorensen.
Sorensen Unity Center. The 9 actually hits a lot of cool destinations. So Sorensen Unity Center is one place. Liberty Park is another that's along that route. You know, 9th and 9th Shopping District. There's a cycle track. You know, you can just put your bike on the bus. There's a rack on the front of the bus. You can put your bike on there, and there's a cycle track over on about 9th West. So there's a lot of destinations that you can get to. The 9 also passes the Walmart over on 3rd West, and that's been a really popular destination. It also connects to a couple of rail stations, and so in particular for the 9, it connects to the ballpark station, and that's a really popular one for people. The 21 connects to Central Point, which is a really big hub for all the major rail lines.
So another question, why were the 2, the 9, and the 21 enhanced and not other routes in the system in Salt Lake City? So these 3 routes were chosen just as the first phase of the frequent transit network. So again, there will be other routes coming online in coming years. These 3 were chosen, one from a logistical standpoint. The 3 of them both begin and terminate within Salt Lake City boundaries. So since UTA is a regional system, obviously a lot of their routes go in and out of different cities. But from our standpoint with these 3 that we just started with, it was kind of an easy logistical decision to have the 3 that are just within Salt Lake boundaries. And then also just making those east-west connections that we talked about were really important because UTA did have good service on several of the north-south connections, but not necessarily the east and west. So getting those 3 started helped to start making those connections and start building the network.
I think it was also really important to our elected officials to connect to the west side of the city. Travel between the west side and the east side of the city has always been challenging, and so that was a really important priority.
Okay. Another one. Okay, so walk us through the transit master plan and how the FTN feeds into the overall transit goals for Salt Lake City. So the transit master plan was completed in 2018, or 16?
2017.
17, in between.
Yeah, took us a couple years to get funding.
But to be able to see something big like the FTN, or at least this first phase of the FTN already being implemented just a couple of years after the transit master plan was finalized is, I think, really exciting, because a lot of times it takes more than just a couple of years to really start seeing some of those things come to fruition. So we're excited to see the transit master plan already rolling out. Some other initiatives that are in the master plan that we're working on are some first and last mile connections. So if if your track station or your bus station is too far for you to either walk or bike, we're working on a pilot program to help residents make those connections and make transit more accessible. What else?
I can get a couple of things. So the frequent transit network, really by design, you can get anywhere in the city with one transfer or less, and it's a quick transfer because the service is so frequent. That's really important because the city's population doubles during an average weekday, and people come from all over the region. It's a lot of wear and tear on our roads. It can lead to congestion, challenges with parking, and so enabling people to take transit not only to work, but then if they're going to meetings, if they're going to lunch, going to dinner, other events while they're in the downtown area, they can do it easily on transit. And so that was a major goal with the master plan. I think also stability in the system. So once these routes are up and running, we really want to keep them stable, keep the schedule stable, the routing stable, so that people can really rely on it. And they can also make some economic investment decisions, like where they live can be along a route, and they'll know that route's not going anywhere. As well as for businesses. And so we'll be tracking some metrics to see how these routes contribute to our economy as well.
Okay, so another question is, if I take the bus, will it really help reduce pollution? Short answer, yes. Every trip counts, and personal vehicle transportation is it's a really big contributor to air pollution, and if you're using the bus instead of getting in your car and starting it up and driving around the city, that'll help clear the air. And then is it February that we do the Clear the Air Challenge?
Yeah, I think it's coming up in 2 weeks.
In a couple weeks, yeah. So the Clear the Air Challenge, can you speak a little? Are you more familiar with that one?
Yeah, a little bit. So this is a program where people can just track their trips, and if they're doing trip chaining or reducing trips, eliminating trips, or taking them by modes that are cleaner, such as transit, biking, and walking, it logs those trips. People have fun competitions. They build teams to see who can kind of score the most points as part of that challenge. It's an online platform. It's part of the TravelWise program through the Utah Department of Transportation, and it's really fun. People enjoy doing it.
Yeah. So make a challenge out of it. See how much you can reduce your own driving. Okay. What do reduced fares from UTA mean? That's a good question. So senior is defined as 65 and up, and so that's one reduced fare. And then we were just talking the other day about the UTA process. So if you have a disability where it's like if UTA, you have to go to a UTA. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you've been qualified by UTA for those reduced fares, then you'd be eligible for those as well. And we can post the number of the website, I'm sure, but also you can go to rideuta.com to find that process and how you may qualify for those reduced fares.
There is a low income pass in addition to that, and there's also a qualifying process for that. It's a little bit clunky, but once you've done it, then you do get that discounted fare. And again, I'll just repeat a plug for our Hive Pass. It's a monthly pass, and so if you're using transit on at all a regular basis, it'll pay for itself. Basically, the city pays for 30% of that pass, UTA pays for 20% of the pass, and then the remaining 50% is the user pays. So it's $42 a month. It will get you on bus, all UTA bus services except ski service. It'll get you on all the TRAX lines. It'll get you on the streetcar, and it'll get you one stop on FrontRunner. So $42 a month for that. It's a really good deal, and it's really popular among the people who use it. There have even been some people who have been able to just eliminate a car from their household because of the Hive Pass and the savings that it offers.
And the Hive Pass does also come with a membership to the Green Bike System, which I'm sure you've seen the stations all around the city as well. So another perk. All right, let's see. Are all of the buses on these 3 routes ADA accessible? Yes, they are. So all of the UTA buses on any of their regular running routes are going to be ADA accessible.
Yeah, they have ramps that they can deploy, and one of the other initiatives of the city is to improve bus stops. And so at this point, we've improved roughly 40 bus stops, making them wheelchair accessible by pouring concrete pads that those ramps can then open onto for passengers who have disabilities to board the bus.
Yeah. Okay, next question. What are other transit investments in the works to complement the FTN? So I mentioned one that's going to be, we're going to be doing a pilot program soon to make some of those first and last mile connections to make it easier for people to access the transit network from their homes. What else do we have?
We also are piloting programs in kind of the western industrial part of Salt Lake City, as well as in the Research Park area of the city. These are pretty major job centers that are a little bit harder to serve with traditional transit, frequent transit service. And so we're working with those businesses to come up with solutions. There's just a whole menu of options that business areas can apply to help reduce single occupant vehicle trips, reduce congestion, reduce demands on parking. And so we're working with them to decide which strategies are the best fit for their particular areas, their work schedules, types of jobs, and the characteristics of their workforces. Okay. It looks like that's the end of the questions that we've received, so thank you for sending those in. If you have more questions, please visit slcgov.com/transportation. All of our contact information is on there, and you can reach out to us. And then also on slcgov.com/transit is where you can go to access the survey that we mentioned. There'll be a link on that website where you can go and take that 5-question survey. Let us know how we can improve the transit network for you into the future. And throw out your name suggestions for the FTN. Help us make it more catchy. You can do that in the comments, or you can put that into the survey as well. But yeah, so thank you so much for joining us and for learning about this frequent transit network. And we hope you'll get out there and ride the bus.